There is a strange kind of tension that follows those who feel deeply. Empaths carry a light that is not loud, not demanding, not theatrical, yet it illuminates every space they enter. Their presence awakens what is asleep in others, exposes what is hidden, and softens what has long been hardened. And that is precisely why some people quietly resent them. People do not resent an empath's kindness, they resent the way that kindness unmasks the truth within themselves. Your light illuminates their shadows. Your sincerity confronts their masks. Your compassion reveals the walls they've built around their own hearts. Your depth exposes the emptiness in their excuses. When someone has spent years avoiding their own emotional world, meeting someone who understands feelings with ease can trigger a quiet jealousy, one they may never admit, even to themselves. This resentment is not truly about you, it's about the version of themselves they are afraid to confront. Empaths often wonder, why do I attract people who hurt me? Why do people take advantage of me? Why do some act distant, cold, or competitive when all I've shown them is love? The answer is simple. Your light awakens what they have suppressed. Your presence becomes a mirror, and some people cannot bear to look into a mirror that clearly. But hear this truth. There is nothing wrong with your light. There is nothing wrong with your softness. There is nothing wrong with your ability to feel the world so intensely that it sometimes aches. The only mistake an empath makes is assuming that everyone is capable of meeting them at the same depth. Some people will cherish your sensitivity, others will fear it. Some will grow because of you, others will shrink. Some will take your presence as guidance. Others will take it as a threat. What matters is this: your job is not to dim your light, but to learn who deserves to stand in its warmth. The more you understand your nature, the less you will allow the wrong people to drain it. And when you finally choose your peace over your patterns, you will notice something miraculous. Your light will begin attracting those who appreciate it, rather than those who resent it. When your light enters someone's life, it does more than brighten the room. It exposes what they have spent years trying to hide. Your presence carries an honesty that cannot be faked, and a clarity that cannot be controlled. For people who have avoided looking at their own wounds, meeting someone like you feels unsettling. It isn't because you are wrong or too much. It is because your energy shines on the parts of themselves they have buried. Your warmth highlights their coldness. Your authenticity highlights their masks. Your emotional depth highlights their emotional avoidance. Without even trying, you become a living mirror, reflecting back the truths they do not want to face. People who have built entire identities around suppression often cling to their shadows as if they are shields. They rely on denial to feel safe. They depend on emotional numbness to maintain control. When someone like you comes along, someone who feels deeply, sees intuitively, and understands without being told, it disrupts the illusion they have created around themselves. Your light gently asks questions they have avoided. It reveals insecurities they have minimized. It brings forward memories they have pushed down for years. This awakening isn't comfortable. It feels intrusive, not because you intend to intrude, but because your natural state challenges their carefully maintained emotional distance. For some, your presence becomes a quiet invitation to heal, but for others it feels like a threat. They may not understand why they feel irritated, jealous, intimidated, or defensive around you, but their reactions are rooted in one truth: you make them feel seen, and being seen can be terrifying for someone who has spent their entire life trying not to be. Instead of leaning into the discomfort and growing, they may turn away, shut down, or even resent you, not because you harmed them, but because you revealed what they are not ready to confront. Your light draws out both the best and the hidden parts of others. It is a catalyst, a guide, a force that awakens clarity. But people respond to clarity based on their readiness. Those who fear their shadows will avoid you, misunderstand you, or resist you. Those who are ready to evolve will gravitate toward you, feeling safe in your presence. And understanding this difference is what ultimately protects your energy and keeps your light shining without apology. Empaths move through the world with a natural openness that makes others feel seen, heard, and understood in ways they are not used to. They do not force connection or dig for truth. Their presence alone brings hidden emotions to the surface. This is why empaths often become mirrors for the people around them. They reflect back the inner world of others, sometimes their beauty, sometimes their pain, and often the very parts they have been avoiding. And because this reflection is unfiltered and unintentional, some people misinterpret it as a threat, even though it is nothing more than emotional clarity shining quietly through. When an empath listens, they listen with their entire being. Their attention reveals the places where someone is being dishonest with themselves. Their kindness highlights the harshness someone directs inward. Their sincerity reveals the pretenses others cling to. For someone who is secure and willing to grow, this is comforting. But for someone who is guarded or living in denial, it can feel like exposure. They may sense that the empath sees beyond their words or notices the feelings they are trying to suppress. The empath doesn't judge, doesn't push, doesn't interrogate, yet the simple act of being understood can feel overwhelming to someone who has built a life around emotional distance. Because empaths reflect truth, they often trigger reactions that have nothing to do with their intentions. People may become defensive, cold, dismissive, or competitive without understanding why. Deep down, they fear that the empath can see through their facade, that their unresolved emotions are suddenly visible. What they are really resisting is not the empath, but the mirror the empath unknowingly holds up. And while the empath offers this reflection with compassion, some people are not ready for that level of honesty. This dynamic can leave empaths feeling confused or responsible for reactions they did not cause. But the truth is simple. An empath's presence reveals, it does not threaten. It brings clarity, not harm. Those who resent the mirror are those who fear their own reflection. Those who welcome the mirror are those who are ready to understand themselves more deeply. When an empath realizes this, they stop taking others' discomfort personally and start recognizing their own power. They see that their role is not to dim their insight, but to share it with those who are prepared to face their truth. Resentment often begins in the same place admiration does, in the quiet recognition of something powerful, beautiful, or rare in another person. When someone encounters qualities they wish they had, emotional depth, inner strength, intuition, confidence, or compassion, they may feel inspired. But if they lack the self-awareness or courage to grow into those qualities themselves, that inspiration can twist into something darker. Instead of acknowledging their longing, they bury it, and what rises to the surface is resentment. This resentment is not truly about you. It is a response to the gap between who they are and who they wish they could be. Many people struggle to admit admiration because it requires humility. It forces them to acknowledge their own insecurities, limitations, or unhealed wounds. So instead of saying, "I respect what you have," their ego whispers, "I resent that I don't." This internal conflict creates tension around those who shine naturally. They are drawn to your light yet irritated by it. They want to be near your confidence but feel threatened by their inability to embody it. They appreciate your emotional intelligence but secretly fear what it reveals about their own emotional immaturity. This is why their reactions become inconsistent. Kind one moment, cold the next, supportive yet subtly competitive. Resentment is often admiration that people can't express honestly. They admire your strength but resent the way it reminds them of their own fragility. They admire your authenticity but resent the way it makes their own masks feel heavier. They admire your compassion but resent how it exposes their emotional avoidance. Your presence highlights the qualities they desire but have not yet developed. And instead of turning inward and growing, they direct their discomfort outward, toward you. This dynamic can be deeply confusing for someone who leads with sincerity. You may wonder why someone reacts negatively when all you've shown them is grace or kindness. But understanding this truth brings clarity. Their resentment is a reflection of their unacknowledged admiration, filtered through insecurity. It is not a sign that you should shrink or change. If anything, it is proof that your qualities are powerful enough to stir something in others. When you begin to recognize resentment as disguised admiration, you stop personalizing others' reactions. You see that their emotional turbulence is their journey, not your burden. And instead of dimming your light to avoid triggering others, you learn to stand confidently in who you are, knowing that your presence will inspire some and challenge others, but it will never diminish your worth. Your kindness carries a softness that many people aren't prepared to receive. For those who have armored themselves with defensiveness, cynicism, or emotional distance, kindness feels unfamiliar, almost threatening. When someone has spent years building walls to protect themselves, your gentle presence can feel like an intrusion, even if your intentions are pure. Your kindness doesn't just offer comfort, it challenges the very mechanisms they use to feel safe. It asks their guard to lower. It invites their vulnerability to surface. And this invitation alone can be overwhelming for someone who equates softness with danger. People who have been hurt often wear emotional armor because they believe it is the only thing keeping them from breaking again. They trust their walls more than they trust other people. When you show them compassion without expecting anything in return, it disrupts the worldview they have relied on. They start to question whether their defenses are necessary or whether they are holding themselves back. This questioning can trigger resistance. Instead of embracing your warmth, they may push it away. Instead of accepting your sincerity, they may doubt it. Instead of stepping into connection, they may retreat further into isolation. Your kindness exposes the fear behind their armor, the fear of being seen, being loved, or being understood. It touches the wounds they have hidden and the loneliness they refuse to acknowledge. It highlights the gap between who they pretend to be and who they truly are. And for some, this is more than they are prepared to confront. They might interpret your empathy as an attempt to break them open. They might feel pressured even though you are offering nothing but acceptance. They might question your motives because they cannot imagine someone caring without an agenda. This is not about you. It is about the fragile balance they are trying to maintain within themselves. Your kindness challenges their armor by showing them a different way of existing, one built on trust, openness, and emotional honesty. But not everyone is ready for this kind of life. Some will misread your presence and resist your influence, not because your kindness is unwelcome, but because it disrupts the emotional patterns they rely on. Understanding this frees you from the burden of trying to heal others. You can offer warmth without sacrificing your peace, knowing that the right people will allow themselves to be softened by your kindness, while others will cling to their armor until they are ready to let it go. Not everyone moves through the world with the same emotional depth, and expecting otherwise only leads to confusion and disappointment. Some people simply do not have the internal capacity to feel, reflect, or connect at the levels you naturally operate on. This is not a flaw within you or a failure within them. It is a difference in emotional wiring, shaped by upbringing, trauma, personality, and self-awareness. When you speak from your heart, they may hear noise. When you express vulnerability, they may feel overwhelmed. When you try to connect on a soul level, they may only understand the surface. It is not that they don't want to meet you there, it's that they genuinely do not know how. Emotional depth requires courage. It requires the willingness to sit with discomfort, to explore inner wounds, to face truth without running from it. Many people have spent their entire lives avoiding this kind of introspection. They were taught to suppress rather than feel, to endure rather than express, to distract rather than heal. When someone like you comes along, someone who navigates emotions with clarity and fluency, it makes their emotional limitations more visible. They may react with withdrawal because they don't know how to articulate what they feel. They may become distant because they cannot reciprocate your openness. They may even seem cold, not out of malice, but out of fear that stepping deeper will unravel parts of themselves they are not ready to face. Your depth can feel like another language to someone who has lived on emotional autopilot. They cannot understand the intuition behind your decisions, the sensitivity in your observations, or the honesty in your communication. They may misinterpret your depth as intensity, your vulnerability as weakness, or your sincerity as neediness, simply because they lack the capacity to perceive emotions with the same nuance. Their reactions are limited by their internal bandwidth, and no amount of love, patience, or understanding on your part can expand their emotional range for them. Recognizing this truth doesn't mean you love people any less. It means you love yourself enough to stop demanding connection from those who cannot provide it. You stop personalizing their inability to understand you. You stop shrinking, explaining, or overgiving in hopes they will someday meet you at your level. Instead, you learn to reserve your depth for people who can hold it, appreciate it, and reciprocate it. And in doing so, you honor the very part of yourself that others once made you question. You carry a light that was never meant to be hidden, only protected. For too long you may have believed that shrinking yourself was the only way to avoid being misunderstood, resented, or taken advantage of. You learned to dim your brilliance so others wouldn't feel insecure, to soften your voice so others wouldn't feel threatened, to silence your intuition so others wouldn't feel exposed. But hiding your light has never brought you peace. It has only disconnected you from who you truly are. Protecting your light means understanding its value, honoring its power, and choosing carefully who gets access to it. Your light is not just your kindness or your empathy, it is your clarity, your insight, your resilience, your ability to feel deeply and intuitively. These qualities are rare. Not everyone knows how to handle them, and not everyone should be allowed to. When you protect your light, you stop offering all of yourself to people who can only take and never give. You stop pouring into relationships that drain you. You stop believing that your worth is tied to how much you endure. Instead, you begin to give your energy with intention. You share your heart with those who respect it. You offer your presence to those who appreciate it. You invest yourself only where your light is seen as a blessing, not a burden. Protecting your light means setting boundaries without guilt. It means recognizing manipulation and stepping away from it. It means understanding the difference between someone who is inspired by you and someone who is threatened by you. It means refusing to let the fears or insecurities of others convince you that you are too much. You are not too much, you are simply more than they are capable of receiving, and that is not your responsibility to fix. When you hide your light, you attract people who prefer the dark. When you protect it, you attract people who rise to meet it. Your light was meant to guide, to uplift, to illuminate, but only for those who seek truth, depth, and authenticity. You do not need to dim yourself to be accepted. You need to shine fully so the right people can find you. Protecting your light is not isolation, it is alignment. It is choosing to honor your soul instead of shrinking for the comfort of others. It is finally understanding that your light was never the problem. Giving it to the wrong people was. In the end, your light is not defined by who resents it, misunderstands it, or tries to dim it. Your light exists because it is meant to. It is the quiet force that guides you through the darkest seasons, the inner fire that refuses to go out, no matter how many storms you've survived. And the more you learn about yourself, your depth, your intuition, your strength, the more you realize that the people who could not handle your light were never meant to walk beside it. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. You are not here to fix those who are threatened by what they refuse to understand. You are here to grow, to evolve, to rise into the fullest expression of who you are. And anyone who cannot meet you with honesty, respect, or openness will fall away naturally, because your light will no longer make space for anything that tries to dim it. Walk forward without apology. Shine without hesitation. Protect your heart, but never silence it. The world does not need you smaller, it needs you as you truly are, and when you finally embrace your light without fear, you will attract the people who reflect it back to you, not the ones who resent it in silence. Your light was never the problem, it was the key to finding where you truly belong.